Good morning. How are y'all? Yes, good to be here with you guys today. My name's Lizzie Shake-Snyder. I'm the Professional Development Manager for the Louisiana Legislative Auditor. Great to be here, and it's my pleasure to introduce our first presenter today. Ms. Jenifer Schaye is General Counsel of the Louisiana Legislative Auditor. She has practiced law continuously for the last 46 years in Texas and Louisiana. Jenifer has substantial experience in the governmental arena. In her capacity as General Counsel to the Louisiana Legislative Auditor, Jenifer advises on public law issues and laws relating to fiscal matters, ethics issues, and all public laws which impact political subdivisions and the audits of political subdivisions on the state and local level. Jenifer also serves as a board member on the Louisiana Survivors Benefit Board as the Legislative Auditor's designee. In addition, Jenifer represents the Legislative Auditor and staff in those matters where they are called to testify and/or to produce records for further inquiry by state and federal courts. She advises the Legislative Audit Advisory Council on relevant audit law issues. Because of her governmental background, Jenifer has a broad knowledge of the processes of government and the relationships between the various branches of state and local government. Please give it up for Ms. Jenifer Schaye.
Thank you. Good morning. I want to make sure that everyone in here can hear me. Is that right? I have a pinched nerve in my back, and so it's better for me to sit to present than for you to see me grimace throughout the entire thing. So we're gonna start. I want to thank you all first for coming, and I want to introduce Patrick Virgadamo and Angela Heath, who are senior attorneys who work with me, who helped me. It says I'm making the presentation, but we've worked together on this presentation. Now I'll say thank you. Thank you for coming. All of you who are listening, I know that you'll be in and out sometimes because of the issues of government. You are here that are here. I hope you'll just enjoy with us. I hope it's not going to be an arduous task. I hope it's going to be something that we can all enter into and you can gain from. We have made presentations, I have, on public bid, and so have Angela and Patrick a number of times. But as Diane said, this topic continues to come up because every day somebody comes in your office in some way and says, hey, can I buy this? Hey, can we sell this? Or, hey, this equipment is no good. Can we get rid of it? So we have all of those issues that we tried to put together in these scenarios. And the scenarios, I hope you have them. Did you have them? You have them? Good. So what we're going to do today, and rather than give you just the straight out black letter law, what we're going to do is walk through these scenarios and act like people like, let me see, what did we call this guy? Fire Chief Smokey Bear, that he's in your office. You know, you got to have some humor in life, right? So we try, absolutely. So we tried to do that with these. But before I even talk about the scenarios, let's talk about the context that we're in with public bid, okay? The context that we're in is look up at the lights, okay? We're in an environment of accountability, transparency, and I'll add one other word, due diligence. So anything we talk about with public bid, it's not just what the legislators wrote in the Constitution and the laws. It's what you do on an ordinary basis so that you can follow those constitutional provisions and law. And that is accountability, transparency, and due diligence. What that means is, and this is only, maybe not the only time, the most specific provision is the Constitution, Article 7, Section 14. Now I'm going to tell you something. In January, I will have worked for the auditor for 25 years. I've been a lawyer much longer than that. And I think what I'd say about all of that I'm kind of old, but I'm kind of happy. You know why? because I have a job that never has felt like a job. And if you are lucky enough to have that, then it's fortunate. But in my job, I've had to learn lots of things. My first week at the auditor's office, a fellow was walking to my car with me, and he said, you know, they tell me you're a good lawyer and you're going to learn, you're going to like working here. And I thought, I hope so, because my little dog at that time was named Valentino, and he liked to eat, and I like to eat. So I'm hoping it's going to work out. And he said, and you know, you're going to teach us a lot about Article 7, Section 14. And I thought, what the heck is Article Section 14? I've been an assistant attorney general for 11 years. I've done tort cases. I've done gaming law, done administrative law, but I had no clue what Article 7, Section 14 is. So look, this is an honest, true story. I said, you know, I forgot something in the office. He said, you going to go back? I said, mm-hmm. You know what I went back for? To get the Constitution to see what Article 7, Section 14 was. I didn't know, and I admit that. But Article Section 14 has become a cornerstone of how I advise you, how Patrick and Angela advise you. Because what does it say? It says there is public money that you can't loan, you can't encumber, you can't gift to anyone. It's public money. And so today, what we're going to be talking about is public money. Money that you can't loan, you can't borrow, you can't encumber, you can't gift somebody with. You say, really? I thought government was meant to help people. It is. But the cornerstone is that we are fiduciaries, we are trustees, and this money is not your money. It's not my money. It is the public's money. It was we got it by taxes and millages and fees, but that's what we're going to be talking about. How do you spend that public money? Okay? That's the basis. Now, let's start, but let's say this. We're going to go through the scenarios, but we're also, what we're going to do is allow you in the audience here at the Light Center and you out in the Netherlands out there to ask any questions you want. If you ask questions in this building, I'm going to hope that you're going to say them really loud so I can hear them. And then I'm going to repeat them on the microphone so that people can hear it in the internet issue. If people on the internet want to ask questions, Diane's going to be watching for that, and then she's going to stop me periodically, and we're going to ask. Patrick and Angela, who have worked so hard with me in this presentation, if they see something that I missed, they're going to remind me, and they're not going to get a salary deduction because they're telling their boss something, okay? So, okay, let's look at Fire Chief first, right? How many of y'all had a chance to read about Smokey? Okay, that's good. If you didn't have a chance to read about Smokey, do you have that scenario right in the front of you so you can take a look at Smokey's dilemma? He wants to be a successful fire chief. You notice that in the tone, right? Okay, looking at it a minute. There's certain issues that Smokey's got to do, right? He wants to upgrade the facility. He wants to purchase equipment. He even wants to sell and buy land. And he knows he needs a budget. So what we did with these scenarios is what I'm going to suggest you do as a scenario like this walks in your office. Step one. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to say, now tell me exactly what you want to do. And then you can look at what are the alternatives to doing this in a legal way with somebody else's money. So let's assume first he says he wants to buy a new fire truck, right? Not assume, that's what he told us. Now, how many of y'all have been involved, if at all, in buying a new fire truck? Anybody? Nobody. Okay, you may be though. You know how much a new fire truck costs today? I happened to talk to the fire chiefs of Louisiana last August. I went to their convention. Y'all can come in, come on. It costs somewhere between usually $250,000 and over $1 million. They're really big and they're really fancy. And they even volunteer fire departments in districts get them. So if he wants to purchase a new fire truck that costs more than $60,000, what's he going to have to do? He's going to have to follow the public bid process, right? You say, okay, I got that. But does he have some alternatives to that process? Sorry? He can, yes, state contract. He can look on state contract and see, is there a fire truck that he can buy? How does he do that? He goes to the Office of State Purchasing, and we're going to talk about that this afternoon, that website, and he sees, is there one on that? Man, during COVID, they kind of used them all up. So he can't find one on that. But you know where he did find one? He could find one on the Government Services Administration site. So could go to that. Second alternative, right? But maybe he knows that his buddy down the road has also purchased one. So what can he do there? Piggyback. He can piggyback. I saw somebody mouthing the words piggyback up there. Then he has to make sure that that person did the contract right and that it's a viable contract still, and that he's going to purchase exactly the same unit that that person purchased. That makes sense? So you say, sometimes people will say, well, suppose it's got a little extra, or that's going to be a problem. If it is, he's going to have to bid it himself. Now, if it's red and his is white, that's no problem. You see, if it's just a slight difference, no problem. But what we're trying to make sure of is when he piggybacks that at some point there was a public bid process. Now, so he's got his truck. Maybe he says, nah, I can't do it. I don't have the budget. I can't buy it. I don't have enough money. The law provides that if he wants to get a used truck, that he can use the above four, he can bid for a new truck, or he's got two additional methods he can use. If the used truck is $100,000 or less, it can be purchased using what we call a request for proposal, an RFP. And in that, he's not looking to buy the price that's the lowest, but the one that fits his needs the best. And he has a criteria for what kind of truck he wants. Or he can purchase a surplus truck from another fire district. Okay? So he's got some alternatives, right? And that's what you'll be doing hopefully, no matter what your job is. How many of y'all are in purchasing? And you know you'll be doing it. How many of y'all are clerks or assistants to the mayor? Okay. How many of y'all are mayors? All right. Mayor, you know then they're going to ask you about this at some point. And you know who else you can ask? You can ask Patrick. No. You can ask me, Patrick, or Angela. And our number is 225-939-4016. I'm sorry, I gave you that's my cell phone. 225, I didn't give you the last digit. 225-339-3871. Is that what you want to tell me? Thank you. What Angela is saying is if you want to purchase from another fire district, it's got to be a Louisiana fire district. Now, for those of you and us who living in Acadiana in the South, that's not generally a problem. But those our friends, don't we have? I met her last night, Jenifer from Bossier. Are you here? There she is. Sometimes Texas drives over and wants to interfere with us. We have to have, I call it interfere, wants to help us, but it has to be a Louisiana fire district. Thank you, Angela. And we have on our website, and I think you have it in your slides, how to piggyback, exactly the steps to piggyback. So have we helped Mr. Smokey somewhat? Okay. Now, what's the next thing he wants to do? He wants to, let me turn my page. I think he wants to purchase some land for the fire department. You see that? Because he wants to build something. Everybody always wants to do something like that. Makes them feel grand. If the purchase of land is the land's going to be greater than $3,000, he has to get an appraisal. Now, an appraisal it has to really be, in our opinion and the Attorney General's opinions, has to be a real appraisal. And it can't be that they're appraising that land for its future use. It has to be, what's it worth right now? Okay? So he has to get that done. He has to get an appraisal. Every parish has appraisers that are certified, or he has to go find one somewhere, but he has to get it appraised. He cannot purchase that land for higher than the appraised value. So the appraised land appraises for $10,000. He calls us up and he said, yeah, I know, but I'm going to tell you what, the guy wants 15 and it's worth 15. And what do we say? Go get another appraisal. Because the law says you can't purchase for higher than the appraised value. Okay? Then, if he wants to sell a building, he has to give notice. If it's a movable building, he'll give notice twice. If it's not a movable building, then he's going to give notice for 3 times. Again, what comes in? Appraised value. Again, you'll remember what I said at the beginning. It is not your money. So you can't divert from the appraised value unless you can say, hey, I'll put it up for this movable property up properly for sale, and we had to reset a new appraised value. Okay? So, are we good on that? Now you notice while he's doing his plans, he wanted to say, okay, I got to lease a building. Is that a debt? Not if it's a real lease. A real lease means that there's within it a non-appropriation clause which says, in case we don't get the money, I can walk away. It's not the same as your mortgage. Think of it that way. If you have a mortgage on your house and you want to walk away, they don't say bye-bye. They say, we're coming to get you. On a public lease, you're going to make sure you have a non-appropriation clause and what they call you don't have an anti-substitution clause. That means if you got the money in the future, you would have to lease from that person. You walk away free and clear. And again, go back to what I said, the Constitution, loan, pledge, encumber, can't do. So you got to only pay the fair market value for that lease that Mr. Smokey's getting. Now, he said in between that he's got to purchase some supplies for the firemen, right? Some consumable supplies. What's movable property? It's anything you can touch. This is movable property. Land is not movable property. So he's got to purchase that. He doesn't purchase it like go to CVS or call Amazon. He has to purchase it for the use over the year. So he'll have to go out, unless he sees it on state contract or cheaper on government services, he'll generally have to go out for bid on that. And he will do a reasonable estimate of what properties he needs. Now he said, well, this time of the year I'm going to need X, and next time of the year I'm going to need X plus 1. So he can put within his bid what he needs, and then he can set unit prices. He can even set within his bid that those unit prices can go up a certain percentage. Does that make sense to you? So all of that is in his bid, and then they bid on it and they deliver it as they need it. Make sense with you? So here's the other thing that he can do, and this is new, and we'll talk about this afternoon. He can purchase from, get this, a qualified group purchasing organization. You say, what the heck is a qualified group purchasing organization? Well, these two lawyers are smarter than me, much smarter than me. Well, maybe not that much, but somewhat smarter than me. And we have sat for weeks trying to understand what is a qualified group purchasing organization that police and fire can now use. Here's what it is. It's a group that does purchasing, that has members, and you have to have at least 2 fire, 2 police in the group. And the group has to have done public bid type purchasing. In other words, not just they had a warehouse, but they went out for bid. And then because their price is lower than the state price, then I can purchase from them on consumables. If you say, that's confusing, I know it is. And we have a chart on that so that you can look at that and continue to test it. And I'll be honest with you, we are looking to see, are we going to get some Attorney General opinions on that? Diane's waving her hand, and I don't think it's to tell me she likes me. Yes.
I do like you, Jenifer. However, we have a question going back to the appraisals. Are appraisals required if you're buying a building?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Are appraisals required also when a government is buying a movable building?
Yes. They can't, yes. The answer is yes, because you always have to pay the fair market value of that. And so you should have an appraisal on that. It might not have to be the same type of appraisal. It doesn't have to be the same type of appraisal that you're going to have for land. But it should be that you have some sense of what that's worth. Unless you're buying it or trading it with, Mr. Smokey was doing it with another fire district or police district. Am I good on that? Yes. All right. Any other, before we move to the next scenario, are there any other questions on this scenario? Oh, Diane?
Yes, we have one more. Is it only the fire department that falls into the qualified group purchasing organizations, or are there others?
Fire and police. Fire and police. And the qualified group purchasing that has just been allowed as of August 2024 by the legislature is very similar to the qualified group purchasing that's been allowed for a few years for school districts. And so if you look at our chart, which is on our website, and I also think you have it in your materials. Fire, police, public safety, and maybe EMS. Sometimes EMS, like in Baton Rouge, EMS is separate than the fire, but sometimes EMS, emergency medical services, is part of your fire district. Healthcare, yes. The question was, what about healthcare? Hospital service districts have had group purchasing for a number of years, and theirs is somewhat different. So we put theirs on the chart also, so you could see the differences. Okay. Oh, we got another question. I'm good. I mean, I'm happy about that. The question is, what if land or building was donated to you? Is the question, can you accept that? Yes, you can accept any donation, but it becomes, here's the deal on that. I'm glad you asked that, because it's kind of a little tangent off of public bid. Anytime you accept property, or whether it be land or movable, like a building, or even if you accepted a vehicle of some kind, that property becomes public property. That property is included then within your revenue, if you would. That property is no longer the property of the person who donated it to you. Does that make sense? Sometimes people want to donate and then dictate how you use that property. That should not happen. It should be that you get the property, you bring it to the council, and you say, Jenifer donated this, and we're going to use it for X, Y, or Z. Becomes totally public. We're good? All right. Then we're doing good on time on that. I figured we'd spend like 20 minutes or so on each one. So now we go to Penny Ledger. Penny Ledger is a town clerk. I just talked to all the clerks, I don't know about all of them, but a bunch of them at LMA had a thing, 145 of them. Were any of y'all in at the LMA? Have any of y'all been to that clerk certification? Oh, good. Okay. They're doing a good job. All right, you already did it. They're doing it at Baton Rouge at the Marriott this week. So I talked to them about Local Government Budget Act, and Angela talked to them about the open meetings law. So here we got Penny Ledger. She's a town clerk, and she needs, as you can see on scenario number 2, she needs a lot of help. Penny's thinking about repairing. She's thinking about purchasing. She's thinking about purchasing vehicles, purchasing services, and poor Penny, she's got to worry about electronics too. But she's taking on her job. So now it's going to be our job here to help and see what Penny's issues are. Y'all all read about Penny? Penny Ledger? Penny looks to me like, initially, the repair of the building, what do you think that is? It's probably a public work, don't you think? It's probably a public work because it looks like a large repair. Now, public work is the renovation or construction of a public facility. Renovation or construction of a public facility. Now, maybe Penny's renovation is not $250,000. But if it is $250,000, what does she have to do? She has to bid it. She has to prepare a bid package so that the contractors can say what they can do. Let's assume, for a moment that it is. What it is then, this renovation, reconstruction of the building, what it is not for Penny to do is to negotiate with the contractor. Okay? Contractors love to negotiate. Any of y'all have built or renovated a house? Anybody? Nobody? Somebody? Well, don't you agree with me? I renovated a house. The guy said, I can do this. And I say, good. Then I come and look and I say, you didn't do that. Yeah. And he says, well, I could do this. That is not public bid. Public bid is you put it together because it's somebody else's money. Keep thinking, somebody else's money. You put it together and they decide, they bid on it. On that bid, on that public bid, you're looking for the most responsive bidder. You're looking for the lowest price from the most responsible bidder. Okay? You estimate for that the total construction cost, which includes labor, materials, equipment, everything. Okay? You're with me? And there's a whole process for that. Suppose Penny's building is less renovation. What can she do? Well, first, even in the 250,000 plus or below 250,000, she's got to make sure that the council has budgeted the money for that renovation. If they have not budgeted the money for that renovation, unlike you and me, who might, take it on the fly on our own, she can't do that. She's got to say, I figured it out. That renovation's going to cost $100,000, and that's where it's going to come from in the budget. If she can't do that, then she can't recommend, and they can't legally start that renovation. Everybody with me on that? Everybody understands that. So if they want to do it, it's under $250,000. Can they do it with their own employees? Can they? Yes, they can do it with their own employees. However, the materials and supplies that they need for that renovation have to be bid. Okay? Now, you say, Jenifer, everything costs more today. You've been to the grocery store lately? You've been to anything. I bought some, I'm having a party for the Alabama game. I hope it's going to be a party and not a funeral. But, I've done it a couple of years in a row. I couldn't get over it. All the things I want for the game, like the tablecloth and the plates and everything, it's all cost more because I still had it on Amazon, what I paid last year and what I'm paying. So you got to estimate, but your estimate has to be real. So, I'm pretty sure though, I've estimated, I've done due diligence. It's under 250. My people can do it. Can they do it? Yes. Can I, under 250, negotiate with somebody to do a certain part of the renovation? Can I do that? Like the plumbing or the electrical? It's under 250. Answer, yes. That will be considered then a service. So Penny's doing okay. All right, we got the building started. Now she's got a poor Penny. She has to surplus some property. It's old, it's junky, it's in a room, nobody's fool with it, and she wants to surplus what was an old vehicle. It's a non-emergency, we said, police and fire. She gets a resolution from the council. Why? Because it's going to become a budget issue eventually. Resolution from the council says, we will surplus A, B, C, D, right? She puts a price on all of that. Remember, Constitution. can't loan, encumber, pledge, borrow. She puts a price on it. What happens? She can have a live auction. It's kind of fun. Don't raise your hand if you don't want to buy it. She can have an auction on the internet, which is described in the statute. She can do sealed bids, but she's got to get fair market value. If it's $5,000 or less, she has to get fair market value. Or she can sell or exchange it with another public entity through what we call a cooperative endeavor. So she's got some choices on this surplus property. What the state does periodically is they take all the surplus property they get from everybody, they put it out, they put numbers on it, numbers meaning values on it, and they advertise, and people come buy it. Resolution, put it out for auction or some form of bidding, sell it. I just add a caveat here. Who can she not sell it to? Because we get this question all the time. Who can she not sell it to? Herself or any of the employees there? They say, got my eye on that printer. Got my eye on it. And then somebody will say, okay, she can't sell it to herself. She can't sell it to her husband. I understand that. How about her kid? Can you sell it to him? No. Nepotism. That's in the statute. You can't do that. So she puts it out. One thing about public bid that I haven't said, I should have said in due diligence, public bid in the whole situation here is always think about it as arm's length transactions. That means that this person and me, we're not together. It's an arm's length, fair, equitable transaction. All right? So Penny sold all the property. She's got a few extra dollars. Where's she going to put that money? In the budget under new revenue, right? Now, what did she tell you she wanted to do? She wants to purchase a new vehicle. And that new vehicle, I forget, is it for the mayor? For the mayor. So it's a vehicle for the mayor. The mayor has to have a car. This is funny, and this is not offensive, I hope. But we got a lot of new sheriffs came into office in Louisiana in July, because they get elected 6 months before they take office. We got more calls for what can I buy for the sheriff? He wants a new Tahoe. So we answered those questions. This is a mayor. Can the mayor buy a new Tahoe? I guess so, if they have money in the budget for it. But the mayor's Tahoe is not the same as purchasing, and we'll talk about it later, a police vehicle. If the mayor's vehicle costs more than $60,000, what do they have to do? Bid. Thank you. Good. Everybody's awake. They got to bid. If they want to buy it from the local dealer, they can with a certain write-up allowed for the local dealer, and you'll look at the statute. The write-up is somewhere between 3 and 7%, depending upon the value of the vehicle. They can also purchase that vehicle off a state contract. They can also purchase that vehicle, if it's cheaper, off of the Government Services Administration. Or if the neighboring town had just purchased a vehicle and it's the same one and that this mayor wants, they can piggyback to purchase that vehicle. Okay? But they always have to be purchasing, get this, from a Louisiana licensed dealer. A friend of mine had a case where they needed to purchase a vehicle, and the vehicle was in California. He really wanted that vehicle, but the California people didn't want to go through the process to become a Louisiana licensed dealer. in my opinion, and the Attorney General's opinions that we've read, you have to be a Louisiana licensed dealer to purchase the vehicle. Think Penny's doing okay? She might get to stay as the clerk a little bit longer, maybe, who knows. Now, Penny had also wanted some professional services, right? Some services to help her. Professional services do not come under the public bid law. Professional services do not come under the public bid law. But what do they come under? The Louisiana Constitution. So if you hire me to cut the grass in here, assume there's grass, and you want to pay me $20,000 for this small area, can you do that? Answer, no. No, no, no. You do not look good in stripes. That would be malfeasance, okay? Professional services are things you purchase and then the person is finished. Professional service would be something like he's going to, I said it, cut the grass. He's going to come in and paint one room. That's a professional service. He's going to come in and fix my computer. That's a professional service. But if you wanted to purchase something that was maybe more than $60,000, and it was kind of integrated with a professional service, like the cameras or software she was talking about, the Attorney General says if it's a contract that services and materials, you look at what are you really doing? Say, what now? What are you really doing? Here's the deal. If you're purchasing cameras and they got to take a half a day to show you how to run everything so you can see who's doing what in every part of the building and at night, what are you doing? You're purchasing equipment. You're not purchasing services. But suppose you're purchasing something where you get some software, but they're going to stay with you the whole time. And the software costs just a little because what they're going to make their money on is the way they stay with you and customize that software for you. So then that would be the purchase of a service. And it's kind of like not totally black and white. You got to really look at it, and we'll help you look at it. On the purchase of electronic equipment, here's the good thing they have in the law, much better, is you can do that with what we call, again, a request for proposal, an RFP. You do not have to go through, the whole public bid process. You do have certain advertising requirements. But what's good about the RFP is you put in the criteria. What do I want? I want this kind of computer software, this kind of camera. I want it to do thus and so. And I say in plain English what I want. It's up to the vendor to come in and tell me he can meet my needs with my criteria. And I can weight it. Price is one of the issues, but it also might be accessibility to the people to fix it. It also might be the intuitiveness of the product so that people like me can run it. You don't have to be Patrick, who knows a lot about computers. Does that make sense? So the RFP is a good process. Now, caveat on that. All of these things are public records. So everything I'm telling you, everything we're telling you, just make sure you do what they say in real estate. What's the main thing? Location, location, location. What's the main thing here? Documentation, documentation, documentation. Keep it electronically. Keep it in paper. I like it electronically that I can convert to paper quick. other thing with the purchase of electronic equipment that the legislature put in a couple of years ago, and we have an affidavit on our website to help you. You have to certify, and I say have the vendor do this, that you don't have certain Chinese elements in that equipment. That has to be done before you purchase the equipment. Now, ask me what that means. I have no clue. But they're the vendor. You give them the list. It's in the statute of what can't be in that equipment, and they have to attest that it's not there. All right? You think Penny's okay? I hope she stays. She might get tired, huh, of all of this. So are we, I think I went through Penny pretty fast. Any questions on Penny? Anything, Patrick or Angela, y'all think we should pull up on Penny? Okay, then I'm going to do another caveat on Penny. Your Penny, okay? When you're Penny, don't let them rush you. That's what I'm going to tell you. Don't let them rush you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to go to, not that we're the experts on everything, because we're not, but we have a lot of FAQs, frequently asked questions, that can help you. You may have a unique situation. Don't let them tell you that you've got to do it today, right now, this instance. Don't let them do that. Even when they do that, just be polite. And I know I can tell from the people here and the people I talk to on the phone, you try. Some days it's hard, but you try. But you don't want to be rushed into, you can't purchase $100,000 worth of cameras in 30 seconds. You wouldn't do it with your own money. You don't want to do it with this money. I mean, you go to buy something, you want to make sure you've done it right. You want your files to be correct. So just don't let them push you. Just think about it before you jump into it. And then we can always help you we can help you better, I should say, on the front end than the back end. We had a situation where there was confusion on the public bid. Person called me and said, I think there's confusion on this public bid. We said something here different than what we said here in the advertisement and in the package. And the person said, what do you think I should do? Now we're on the front end. And on the front end, I'm saying what? Cancel the bid. Cancel the bid. Because guess what? I often, you've heard me say this before, I know. You know who understands that bid better than you? The guy who loses. And on the front end, if you take care of it, cancel the bid, get it right, arm's length transactions, you're going to be much better off. If you wait till the end, a lot of times people will come and say, I knew it wasn't right, and we had to hurry, and I went through with it. And so what's happening now? The guy that didn't win is saying, well, you didn't do it right. I'm going to court. When he goes to court, or she goes to court, they can get an injunction and stop the whole frickin' process. That is not what you want to do. That will get you on Facebook. It will get you on Instagram. It will get you in the newspaper, and they'll bring the TV cameras out there to see how the building's not built. So don't do it. Just proceed carefully. Angela and I gave advice about 2 years ago on a major project in this area. And I thought the people followed the advice. I thought they did. The CPA was right on it, telling the people what was wrong, and they didn't listen. They didn't listen. and went to court. And I think it's still in court. And I'm all for lawyers being paid, because now I have another dog named Happy, and he needs to eat. But no, you don't want to do that. The worst place for your town to end up, the worst place, is the courthouse. It is not a remedy. It is something you're forced into when there's problems that happen. Sometimes you have to go there, but I just tell you, don't. Any questions on Penny? Okay. Then we're going to move on to this one. I think is timely, because all of a sudden what's in the newspaper a lot is the library, right? Everybody wants to talk about what books are in the library. And we're not going to be political here today and decide what books ought to be in the library, but we'll talk about them in a minute. And our girl here is Paige Turner. You like her name? We thought her name was real good. We're probably not going to win any Pulitzer Prizes, but we enjoy doing these little scenarios. Paige Turner is the executive director, and she's going to be buying things for the library. The library is a component unit of the parish. Now, I got a question yesterday. Let's see. I'm not going to remember the name of the person. There is the person here who asked us about Act 736. Good. Okay, I'm going to address Act 736. Has a library. Tell me your name. Aaron. Aaron is part of a library, if I can say it right. Aaron, that's an independent. It's been declared independent of the police jury. But they passed a statute in the last session, Act 736, that to me reads like, even if Paige was part of an independent library, the police jury might be able to overrule what the library board has done. That's the way it reads. I don't know what's going to happen on that. I just would say we're going to keep watching that. I would say that the library will proceed as we've asked Paige, as we show Paige is proceeding. But if somebody in the parish council wanted to overrule it, this one is for a component unit. I'm not sure they would have the authority, I don't know, for an independent certified library. I'm not sure. What do you call that? A fully, she said it, fully emancipated library. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. But I think this statute arose out of people being concerned about libraries in their area and what the libraries purchased and the conflict between some library boards and parish councils. But that said, we're going to put that there, and we're going to add 736, Aaron, to our FAQs just to make people aware of that. If Patrick and Angela could make that note, we'll do that, and that'll be up. We try to make our FAQs as relevant as we can to what's happening. We go through them, and some of y'all, I think some people have, it's been given as a compliment, and I think Paige here might have it on her desk. They print our FAQs and they put them on their desk. So if they have any questions, they can go to it. Some people go to it right on the computer. If you're not looking at the FAQs that have at the bottom August 24, then you don't have the most recent. You want to make sure you do. And when we change pages in the FAQ, we try to give you note of that too on our website. Yes. Frequently asked questions. And that's a good question. If you go on our website, and I'll talk about it this afternoon, under legal assistance, then you'll see we have about 40 now, 40 FAQs, which FAQs mean not 40 different topics, so that you can look at the things that we think are important in public bid and public meetings, open meetings, public records, and so forth. Okay? So back to Poor Paige. Poor Paige has got stuff to do. She's purchased stuff. She's got to order uniform, and she's considering a bid that's joining the library. So let's walk with Paige a minute. Purchase of the books for the library. What are books? Books are movables, right? Estimates how many books is she going to purchase this year. She said, now, wait now. She doesn't know how many books she's going to purchase this year. How's she going to know that? She's going to go and judge by what did they purchase in previous years. So she's going to run through the process, maybe not run, but walk through the process as you would if you were going to purchase desks. How many did we purchase last year? How many do we estimate we're going to purchase? She's going to compare what are those numbers. Things have gone up. Is she purchasing under $30,000? If she is, she's going to document her file that she got the decent price for it. She didn't overpurchase. She's going to purchase between $30,000 and $60,000. She's going to get at least 3 quotes, and she's going to have that in her files. If she's going to purchase more than $60,000, she's going to be in a total public bid process, advertising, sealed bids, and so forth, unless she can find those books on state contract, General Services Administration, can piggyback with another library, or can purchase from the surplus of another library. Make sense? So she goes through that process. Now, I'm not saying it, but I'm hoping I'm going to say it this time. You know she's got to clear all of that with the board, right? With the library board. And every library board, every board has what I call, the lady's going to ask me to define it, a curmudgeon. That's the smart guy, smart lady who says, Penny, why did you have Paige? Why did you have to purchase A and Z? And she's got to answer those questions because she should have transparency and accountability with the board so that they know what she's doing, that she has the money in the budget to make those purchases, right? If she does, she's cool. If she doesn't, she can't do it. She can't negotiate on the prices of the books. Now, she can do like a supply contract and say, Alice in Wonderland might go up in price and I'm agreeing in this bid to pay that when we get to that. Okay? So we got Penny. I keep calling her Penny. I don't know why. I got Paige, and she's purchasing her books. Now, everybody in the library wants to have a uniform. How many of y'all work in situations where you're doing uniforms? Okay. So this is going to be relevant to you. Okay. If the uniforms paid for by the employees, they do have to be bid. Okay? So if the uniforms are totally paid for by the employees, you don't have to bid. And you can work out a policy. a policy, not, one for Marshall, one for Jenifer, one for Angela, but a basic policy that will say, we will take X amount out of your paycheck to pay for that uniform. That has to be signed by law by the employee, because otherwise you cannot take money out of their paycheck. Okay? Situation number one, they pay for their uniforms. Situation number two, they do not pay for their uniforms. You pay for the whole thing. Okay? A lot of sheriff's offices, they buy the whole thing. That's fine. That is the proper use of public money. You have to bid maybe for the purchase of all of those things. That's one step. You then buy it from a vendor. You, the public entity, get it from a vendor as a result of a public bid. I belong to that police department, that sheriff's department. My first day, you hand me XXX uniforms. That's a joke. You laugh. Okay. Hope somebody in the Netherland laughed or whatever. But anyway, you buy the uniforms. That uniform then belongs to the public entity. And you go, what? That dude's been wearing that uniform for 3 years. I don't want it. Tough. When that person leaves the public entity service, they have to return all the uniforms to you. Okay? That's another scenario. Another scenario is you say to the person, you buy part of the uniform, which again, they buy it, they pay for it themselves, but we'll buy the shirt that has the insignia of LLA on it. That's Louisiana Legislative Auditor. We'll buy that. When they leave, they have to return that shirt with the insignia. And actually, that's a pretty good alternative, because when they leave, you really don't want them to be wearing your insignia, do you? No. I mean, they were good employees. You don't want to, mislead people and still think they're working for you. So that's the other thing. Any questions on the uniform? Okay. I'm sorry. Ask me. Say it again. Yeah, the public bid law for movable property applies. If you're buying $60,000 worth plus of uniforms, you're going to follow the public bid law. Mayor, that's your question too. Okay, 30 to 60, you're going to get 3 bids on it. But that's just something that I want to make sure that everybody knows about and that there is a solution to it. Now, again, here's our page. She wants to purchase computers and services, and to review that, we're going to suggest that she do it through a request for proposal, that she determines whether she's buying computers or is she buying services or is she buying a combination. She's buying a combination. What predominates? What is the most important factor in that? Okay? Now, and also she's going to make sure through the vendor that there are no Chinese parts. I just want you to know, though, again and again, when you create your RFP, you want to create the criteria by which you will judge the people. And then you'll say 10% will be this, 20% will be this, and so forth. So price is one of the factors. But unlike straight out public bid, price is not the total factor. Okay? Again, remind you, it is a public record. We bid, we're not subject to the public bid law because the legislative auditor is part of the legislative branch of government, and this won't shock you, but legislators excluded themselves from the public bid law. Isn't that funny? That was one of the things I learned 25 years ago. The guy comes to my office, the purchasing guy, and he said, "We don't have to follow the public bid law, but I did thus and so." Well, I didn't think he was the sharpest tool in the shed, but so I checked it, and I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, still not. And I said, "Well, I'll be doggone." So I went back and researched it, and yep, we don't have to follow it. But we do. We do. Why do we do that? Because we want to make sure that our office is also transparent and accountable. We did an RFP for banks. We've done RFPs for our branding. We've done RFPs for our leadership development. And in all of those things, we've had criteria, and we've judged by the criteria and then picked the vendor that we thought could best do our service. And in that process, we have been challenged. We have had people come in the next day, the next week, and say, "Can you tell me how you picked XY company to be your service?" And we do it. We have to. And we should open our books, transparent and accountable. Do I need to give you just about I know it's not on the thing. Maybe a 10-minute break. Is that good? Because we've finished. We got what we have one more scenario. We have one more scenario to do. So I'm going to give you. It's 20 minutes to 10. How about 10 minutes to 10? 9:50. Thank you. We'll be back. Okay, everybody ready? We got about 45 minutes or so left with each other. I know it's tantalizing to you and everything. I just want to thank the people that are here in the audience. I'm so happy we can do this on the internet. When we started CLGE, we didn't have those capabilities, but I'm happy we can do it. But I do love seeing a live audience. I mean, it's your faces, your questions. I don't really wish this, but sort of wish it, that we could have like FaceTime with all of you who are out on the internet so that we could see you too. Patrick and Angela are telling me that we're getting a number of questions through the internet that people want answered. And we're more than happy to answer those. And they want a written answer. They want to talk to us. That number that I gave you, 225-339-3871. That's our direct office number. And you call there. Now, if I'm going to be here tomorrow to hear the water thing. Patrick and Angela will be back in the office. But if we get 50 calls tomorrow, it might be hard to answer them all. But call us, and we'll see what we can do. And then, of course, God willing, the rest of the week, we'll all be there, and next week. And it's a lot of information that we're giving you. And I realize as you think about it and you distill it and you apply it to your personal situations, you have other questions you may want to ask us. So I'm going to offer a little time at the end now, but also that you feel free to call us. We answer those questions. We have Tommy Rizzuto and Kathy Ballantyne who answer the phones for us generally. We have a policy that I've had from day one in the office is that we will call you back. You know, we try to do that, call you back that day, or we'll call you the next day. If we don't call you, then you call 911. You know, if something bad happened to us. So when I first started at the auditor's office, I had worked 10 years as a lawyer for a Texas legislator, and I worked 11 years as an assistant attorney general. And when I got to the office, I had a secretary who remained my secretary and assistant for 24 years. But the first week I was there, she came in and she said to me, you know, I hope you have another job. I said, what now? She said, because this is not a full-time job. It was just me. I was a general counsel, but it was just me. And I said, every job I've had has been a full-time job. And I went to my car. It's always walking to the car or getting in the shower that you have these thoughts. So I got to my car, and now you know it was almost 25 years ago, so I didn't call till I got home. But I called the smartest man I knew in the world, and that was my dad. He never graduated from high school, but he was a smart guy. Read the paper every day from cover to cover, just a smart guy. Didn't talk much, smart guy. So I said, Daddy, said, this girl at the office, she said, it's not a full-time job. And you know, I hate jobs that are not full-time jobs. He says to me, baby, you kind of like an insurance policy. I said, what? He said, when they find out you're there, they're going to want to use you. And so it worked out that way. It worked out that I love the people that I work with in the auditor's office. They're really good. They're CPAs, most of them, and they're just very competent people. And every day it's like a law school exam question, because they ask, if you think you ask hard questions, they ask really hard questions so that they can do the right things in their audits and for you. And then eventually it got to be such a full-time job in about 3 weeks that my secretary came in, she closed the door, and I thought, oh, she's going to quit. And I'm going to have to go tell Dr. Kyle I ran the secretary off, and that's not going to be good. She sat down and she said, I just want to apologize. I said, really? She said, you made it a full-time job. It's a full-time job. Stop. But we didn't stop. And we hired lawyers who help us and work with us. And Angela and Patrick have been the best of those. And so anyway, I just want to tell you that you have a full-time job. We have a full-time job. We like our jobs. We want you to ask us questions. And this is kind of hokey to say maybe, but there's no dumb question. You ask the question, and if we can answer it, we will. And if we've answered it 20 times, we're still going to answer you. And that's why we have those frequently asked questions, so that you can see what other people have asked. And that'll help you. Then we have another whole list of questions that we get over the phone. We record every question that we get, not verbally. We don't have a mic on it. Don't worry about that. But we do write down who called us and what they asked. And sometimes we put those in what we call our frequently asked, not our frequently asked questions, I forgot, our database questions. And we have those in there so that you can see, hey, somebody else asked that question about volunteers in uniforms. And then sometimes we don't have it right, and you all tell us, and we go and change it. So I just want to say all that to you. Angela and Patrick said that we've been getting questions, and we're going to talk about it more this afternoon, distinguishing between vehicles you would buy for the mayor and vehicles you would buy for fire and police. There is a difference. For the mayor or any public official or any public thing that the entity would do other than fire, emergency, police, you'd follow the regular public bid law. Under 30, if you can find a car under 30. Under 30, you would just get the best price. Between 30 and 60, you would have 3 quotes. Over 60, full public bid process. When we talk this afternoon in detail about police and fire apparatus vehicles, we're going to be talking about $70,000 and no bid. Okay? So there will be a distinction. And you'll be able to ask questions about that. I'll tell you one I got this week. The guy said, I know it's a police vehicle that I got this $70,000 per vehicle on. I said, yes. He said, the mayor wants, I don't know which mayor, so just to me it's funny. The mayor wants blue lights on his car. And he wants a radio, a police radio. You think that is a police vehicle? I said, well, it sounds like a police vehicle. So I think, you probably can use a $70,000 thing, but it's not clear. So then I'll give my standard answer. If you want it to be absolutely clear, what are you going to do? You're going to ask for an attorney general opinion. And that comes through a resolution of the council. Now, sometimes when we say that, people go, I'm not doing that. I'm going to bid it. But it's up to you. Okay? The other thing is general, what do we call it? Great policy? GP. What? General Purchasing Organization. Went out of my head. The General Purchasing Organization does not have to be a Louisiana entity. But 2 Louisiana entities, either police or fire, have to belong to it. Okay? So you could have, my friends in Bossier, there are a lot of general purchasing organizations in Texas. They could come over, but 2 Louisiana entities have to be members before you can use them. So we want to make sure you knew that. Okay? Any questions now about anything that we said this morning or something that just popped in your head? Okay. All right. Oh, we got one, Aaron. Yes. The question is the comparison between an ordinary bid package and an RFP. So what's different in the RFP is that you're going to say what you want, but you're not going to have maybe as technical of specs. Like you might say, I want 16 cameras in the jail, and they have to cover this area of the jail, and they have to be able to be accessed on people's computers. We'd say it in plain English, not like this got to be this dimension, and that. But here's the most critical difference. You would put in the RFP the criteria by which you will choose. And one of the criteria will be price. The other criteria might be accessibility to the vendor. Another criteria might be reputation of the product, or reputation might be more people's service experience with the product, that kind of thing. And you would put percentages next to those criteria. So when people see it, even if they gave you a camera that cost 10 cents, they couldn't meet your other criteria. And you would be free to choose someone who had a higher price but met all these other criteria better. And then add to that, in an RFP for electronic equipment, you're going to want to make sure that people can meet that Chinese component affidavit, because that's essential. They can't get it without that. Okay? All right. Now we'll go to Buck Justice. I love Buck Justice. Buck Justice says the elected police chief. I saw on TV this morning, I forgot, some town, I don't know which one, they interviewed the 4 candidates for police chief. And they didn't sound so tough as police chiefs, but I guess that's how they're going to get the votes. And I thought it was interesting. He's got to have additional patrols in his city. So he wants to purchase new vehicles, and he wants to purchase firearms. That's pretty good. And he's got a dog. He's got a K9 named Ranger that he's got to figure out what Ranger's about to retirement. So how many of y'all have elected police chiefs? Raise your hand again, please. Okay. Then there is always, I don't know about there is always, we often see tensions between the police chief and the council, right? Because the council says you have X dollars, chief, and the chief spends it in the first 60 days. That might be an exaggeration, but they come back. And then what happens next? Well, what we're trying to do with Buck Justice is see if we can keep him on a path and keep him within his budget. First, what he has to do is get rid of those old cars, right? To get rid of the old cars, he cannot just bring them to the junkyard. He cannot give them to his son who needs a car to go to ULL. Cannot do that. You have to surplus the old vehicles. Now, does he have to go to the council for that? No, because if he's an elected police chief, he doesn't. If he's appointed, he does. But he's going to surplus the vehicles the way we talked about earlier this morning. Or we could have a live auction, an online auction, sealed bids. He could sell or exchange them with another department, or he could donate them to another public safety agency. He cannot just donate them to anyone. He says, Patrick's a nice guy. I'd like to donate them to Patrick. Answer, no. Okay? So surplus the other vehicles. He's got to put a price on them. He does it 2 or 3 times. He says, look, this car's got 400,000 miles and the engine doesn't work, I can't sell it. Nobody wants to buy it. That could be true. Then what's he going to do? Remember, it's somebody else's money. What's he going to do? He's going to say, okay, let's put a price on it to surplus it for junk, like at a scrapyard. People at a scrapyard will buy those kinds of vehicles, and they'll smush them, and they'll give you some money for it. So we walked through the process with Buck, and he goes with us, and then he's okay. Now, he wants to purchase a new vehicle. This gives me a chance to talk about again. He's different for his new vehicle than it would be if somebody was purchasing the vehicle for the mayor. Because the law now says he can purchase that police vehicle if it's $70,000 or less without the public bid process. But he has to document his file as to why he paid that amount. Because what? The Constitution is still there. He can't loan or surplus. So he can't pay what you'd pay for a Lamborghini for that police car. He's got to pay a reasonable price. Now, if Buck is in Jefferson Parish he might be purchasing 20 police cars, right? At $70,000 apiece. Prior to August 1st, 2024, I would have told Buck, and I did tell Buck, you have to bid those cars because you have to consider the entire purchase. This law says you no longer have to consider the entire purchase for police, fire apparatus vehicles. You do it one at a time. Personally, little editorial, I'm not sure how this is going to work. I hope it works well. I think the sheriffs and police wanted this because they need, and I agree with this, they need vehicles so badly. And they were held up because of COVID. I mean, for a while, they couldn't get anything. Now, other rules still apply. They could still get it off state contract, GSA, piggyback. They could do it with a qualified purchasing organization. All of those are still there. But if they see a car on the internet that's exactly what they want, and it has all the bells and whistles that they need, and it's $70,000 or less, they do not have to bid it. Any questions on that? Yeah, I'm sorry. Then you have to bid it. The question is, if the vehicle goes over $70,000, you have to bid it. Yeah. I think they're considering the whole price, not just, I think what you're at. The question is, the vehicle itself might be under $70,000 or less, but then you add all the things they need, and that makes it cost $80,000. I think you have to bid it. I think you have to bid it. I think that's what the law is, but we don't know yet. We haven't seen any AG opinion on it. We're still questioning what fire apparatus means. We don't know. But we're watching. We're watching to see. Right now, what we'll say is 70,000 means that's it, riding out with the blue lights and the radios and the special police interceptors. Any other questions on that? And, you know, I want to say, I mean, I want, the only reason I said before the total amount, because it seemed like the total amount had to be bid because it seemed like such large purchases for these when you have to do 10 or more. But the legislature said it. I don't make the laws. We'll try to look at it. And I think the police and fire are really trying to do the right things on all this. Firearms that they can sell those according to the same provisions for seized or forfeited weapons. And you'll look at they can sell or donate them to another law enforcement, or they can sell to a dealer. They can't sell on the street, obviously. Hopefully not. And then the purchase of firearms follows the same public bid policy law that we've talked about, 30 to 60, at least 3 quotes. If they're under 30, you would have an informal quote. I don't know this myself. Are firearms on state contract? I haven't seen them. Have y'all? But anyway, if they were, you would look to state contract and GSA. I think this is a situation where you might use piggybacking because other police agencies have purchased certain firearms, or you also might use the qualified group purchasing, depending on who's buying what and when. Now, how many of y'all have a dog? Good, me too. Great thing. Lowers your blood pressure, raises your blood pressure, makes you laugh, spends more money on it than sometimes my own doctor. My little dog weighs 11 pounds and 1 ounce. I opened the door the other day. You gotta have a little humor, a little side. I opened the door the other day. It was an Amazon lady, and he went out to greet her, and she says, "He bit me, he bit me." I said, "No, he didn't bite you. He's saying hello." Well, she turned him in. She turned him in. So Amazon contacted me, and I had to send Happy's health records to Amazon. Happy's health records were 22 pages. They were more than mine, you know. I mean, really. And he's healthy. He's 9 years old, but he's healthy, but he goes to the doctor. So, you know, we value our animals. And what they put in the law, which I think is great, and Angela, I know, has it up on the screen, that you can now sell the canine animal to the person that's been handling them. Because they had, you know, before we had to treat it like surplus property and sell it to whomever. And they used to that policeman that's handling them. And if that policeman wants to buy them, then they can do it. And the purchase of a new dog is exempt from the public bid law. So if they have these dogs that are well trained for drugs and other things, then they don't have to follow the public bid law. I mean, it has to be reasonable, but they don't have to follow the public bid law. The purchase of fuel is one of those requirement contract issues where you estimate how much, as the chief is saying, he's going to need more fuel, more patrols. You estimate how much, and you do bid that out. And you could have within those contracts escalation clauses. But here's what I find on all that. People want to negotiate beyond the contract once the contract is going on. You cannot do that. The contract has to be a mirror image of what you said you needed in the bid. That's why you have to really think through the bid. Now, if things change and you need more fuel, or things change and you don't have the money, then you're going to have to publicly bid again to change things. Make sense? But you can't negotiate once it's done. The use, he also had personnel and supplies. What we say on personnel, on supplies, is this. The police has, let's say, they have extra writing tablets. Extra writing tablets. Not the kind they write the tickets on, but just extra writing tablets. Can they give those writing tablets to the school district? That's a donation, right? It's not within their public duty. So this might shock you, but I'm not sure they could do that. They could give the writing tablets. They have extra police vests. Can they share those with another police unit? Answer, yes, because that's within their public duties. Can they, as this one has, can they do patrols just to help the community at the basketball game, at the football game? Can they do that? I think they can if they follow Cabela. That's a case, Cabela, and that's in our work that we have. That means that there's a public purpose for doing it. Not one person's going to benefit, It's a benefit to the whole, and we'll get something back. So if they were the patrol at the basketball game, they would have, or football game, they would have a CEA, a cooperative endeavor agreement with the school board, right? Now, suppose I'm having a private party because we're celebrating my friend's birthday. Can they come to my house and park in the front so everybody knows where to park? Probably not. That looks like a donation of public property. Can they do it if the police have a policy that allows them to do it when they're not on time and the money is paid to the police and then paid to the policeman who did the extra duty? Probably yes. There are AG opinions on that. But you see the difference? You're doing it for a public entity. It's going to benefit the public. Cabela test, 3-prong test. That's written into the agreement. And I said the word, written. It should really be a written agreement. Any of these kinds of transfers of property should be a written agreement. Now, we've gone over lots of stuff. So if I could, I'd like to summarize for you with this, and it's not going to be hard. Every single one of these scenarios requires what I said the first thing this morning: transparency, accountability, and due diligence. Whatever situation requires that, because all of these situations require arm's length transaction. All of these situations do not allow you to gift a person. And that's a little contrary, because we like to help people, and we can help people, but we have to do it within the confines of realizing in all of these situations that it's somebody else's money, that it's a public purpose. What Paige can do is different than what the chief can do, because her organization is a library and his is law enforcement. Does that helps? That makes sense? It's different. Not every good work can be done with public money. Not every good work can be done with public money. It's a good thing to help St. Jude, the children's hospital. Maybe not all of us, but many of us have seen the benefit of St. Jude. But if I were going to donate money to St. Jude, I would have to show that it's part of the public purpose of my organization to do that. That might be hard. Now, might be able to do it. Maybe I'm working for the Attorney General and I win a big lawsuit, and the criteria for giving the money to the state of Louisiana is that we use it to help children. Okay? St. Jude to help children. I'm the lawyer. What do I have to do? I have to go to the legislature and say, I would like you to appropriate this money, which I won in this lawsuit, to St. Jude, because I don't have the authority to do that. They could do that. When you're in your situation, if you want to do these things and you're part of a board, I highly recommend that you run the situation through that board. You might bring it up at the beginning of your budget year. You might bring it up in the midst of your budget year, but you don't act unilaterally. You have resolutions, you have ordinances, and you proceed in a timely manner. What the public bid law is it is a prohibitory law. It means that you have to follow it exactly. But what we've done in these scenarios is show you how you take the integrated parts of the public bid law and you apply it, hopefully, to your real life. So that said, I want to open this now for any questions. Doesn't have to be what I talked about or we constructed for you today, but any questions on the public bid law or something that you think relates to the public bid law. And maybe they'll have some on the internet too that I can answer. But any of that y'all might have. Sorry. Go ahead. Yes, I had to see you. Who do the RFP? That's a great question. Any of your either public bid or RFP, you have to advertise, and you should have them there on your internet if you have an internet so that people can see them. And also you can have them in paper at your office. And I should have said this, a good question, that on the internet, on the package, the RFP package, you'll say, this is an RFP for X, and we need the response by Y, and we'll have an answer by Z, so that everybody knows. Now, I like, depending on the size of the project, I like what we call mandatory bid conferences, which requires that they come to a conference where you can verbally explain the bid package. And that if you don't come to that conference, you can't bid. And that says it in the directions. Yes. I think the RP is 2 times on electronics. Yeah, yep, you can. Thank you. Yes, that's an excellent point. Because what you're trying to do is reach as broad as you can so you get the best answers that you can. And that's why it's important to tell them how you want it answered. We generally, I see you, I'm going to get, we generally say we'll take the answers electronically and have it placed in a certain part on our web, and we don't open it until that day. Got another good question. Thanks, Angela. It is okay if you have attempted to sell them. If you have attempted to, you had a resolution, you attempted to sell them, you arrive at that they're just salvage, then what I would say is you get a salvage value appraisal, and then you can sell them. And all of that would be in your resolution. Well, I guess what that's talking about is if you're doing if you're in a disaster situation. It appears to us, and Angela and Patrick are better on this than I am, but it appears to us that you can't spend any federal money without some kind of competitive bidding, even if it's under the $30,000. So what we recommend is that you have some kind of competitive show in your files, some kind of competitive bidding, if you have federal money. There's another provision in federal law that says that you follow the strictest law. And generally, the strictest law is state law and public bid. So they work together.
For local entities, you have to follow both the state law and the federal law. So that's where you default to the stricter one, which is the both. But you have to remember the federal law, they include, it's only by money, not by type like we do here. So professional services under federal law requires competitive process.
You heard that? In federal law, professional services. That would be like if you hired an engineer or an architect. For the simplification of it all, if you're using federal money, get some bids, get something, because
Process could
some
work.
kind of process, because you don't want them coming back. When we had hurricanes, sometimes in those hurricane situations, they would suspend the bidding and say, you just got to do it, get it. But I'll tell you what, I am very skeptical of that because I've seen it come back and burn people.
We have another question. For purposes of the $30,000 threshold, is it a sum of the annual amount for any given class of purchase? For example, if the total cost of paper purchased over the annual time for paper. So
You should always estimate your annual purchase, and that's the number you're going to use. So if your annual purchase was $45,000 for paper, an annual purchase, you would be you would be getting 3 quotes. So you wouldn't take it, as I say, paper clip by paper clip. How much you're going to use over the year. And that would go even if you were doing something like roofs on a building. If you had 6 buildings, you knew you were going to do the roofs on all those buildings and totaled more than $250,000, you would bid that. You would not do it under so that you wouldn't have to bid. That's called splitting, and that's not legal. Maybe another thing I'm going to mention in the public bid law that we haven't talked about, we always talk about it, but it wasn't in these scenarios, is the emergency and extreme emergency. The difference. An extreme emergency is a catastrophic event. Then you do whatever you have to do. All rules are put aside for that. An emergency is just stuff that happens. I didn't have hot water. This is a true story. I didn't have hot water in my hotel room this morning. So cold showers are not my favorite thing. To me, that's an emergency. It's not extreme. I did take a shower. You're lucky. But, that's an emergency. An extreme emergency would be, God forbid, that we had a tornado and this roof's off. When we had those hurricanes, Laura and Ida, we had lots of extreme emergencies. But extreme emergencies, get this, extreme emergencies end. You do not stay in that state because it's easy. Not easy, but because you don't have to bid. But I just urge you to distinguish. Neither an emergency or an extreme emergency is procrastination. I didn't take care of the problem, so the water plant failed. That's an emergency now, but it's caused by your procrastination.
We have a question. Can Jenifer repeat the rule related to fuel and the bid law? Do fuel purchases have to follow bid law?
Yes. The answer is yes. All fuel purchases have to follow the public bid law. that you'll do a reasonable estimate of how much fuel you need in the year, and then you'll bid on that. In this one, in the scenario I think we had, they wanted to go from vendor to vendor. Well, that wouldn't be the way to do it. The way to do it would be, I need this many gallons. Who can provide this for me? Can I have an escalation clause in that? Yes, but it has to be that the bid and the contract follow each other.
And usually those types of bids for fuel, like with volatile prices, you can do it on a price index is how the bidders would submit the bids to you. And that's how you can see with the discounts would be what makes it the most competitive.
Yes, the price index would be included. Thank you. The price index would be included in your bid package, so they would know exactly how you're doing it. Any other questions? Another concept that we didn't say, no questions, but another concept that we didn't cover is, can you amend the bid package, like on a public works project? You're building it and you see something that happened and you got to change it. Can you do that? It's called a change order. And yes, you can. And if it's 10% of the value or 20% of the value, you have to do it in writing and you have to record it. What you cannot do is add to it. He's such a good contractor, I'm gonna have him build a light center and 2 other buildings down the way. That's not allowed. You have to go separately and bid that later. Right. Now, here's what we hope, that this will help you. You'll go through it. You'll have your own situations, and you'll give us a call as we can. And then later on, we'll talk more explicitly about a few of the major changes in the public bid law. I want to thank you that have been. We're going to end a few minutes early, so you can give us a better rating. So what we want to say is thank you, because I feel like y'all really were with me and paying attention, and I tell you, I appreciate that. I really do. I always get nervous about doing these, because you always want to do your best. And I hope we gave you a lot. I hope the people that are listening got a lot. And then as we move along, we're going to keep updating our materials, and we're also available to talk with you as you want to talk with us. Thank you so much. I think you have a break now until 11. Yep, and it's 20 minutes to 11.